What I think is fascinating is they used to always say, and you've heard this 100 times, people don't leave their job, they leave their manager.
Right.
Well, right now, people don't leave their job nor their manager, they leave their senior team.
Welcome back to Stepwise, a series of juicy conversations with inspired leaders about their insights, approaches, and journeys. I believe that leadership matters to performance and to people. I also believe that leading best happens in today's complex and changing world when we bring our best wisdom, something that can be taught and accelerated. Today's guest, Dr. Julie Kennedy Oehlert, is someone I've known and admired for a long while. She's been a thought partner with me and a mentor in helping me better understand how love, yes, love, can be a decisive factor in leadership and culture today. Here's Julie's background. She's an emergency room nurse, in my humble opinion, some of the toughest and kindest people on the planet. She's a healthcare operator, an expert in all areas of experience in organizations, including patient, teammate, and leadership. She holds a PhD in leadership and transformation. She's an author, having released a leading textbook on leadership and transformation through love, as well as the seminal piece called What's Love Got to Do with It? What you'll learn from this wonderful chat with Julie is, among other things, what listening looks like in today's workforce, given multi-generational needs. You'll hear Julie make the case for love and how it can transform engagement, quality, and performance. You'll hear she and I discuss the new covenant between leaders, their organizations, and their workforces. And she discusses how staying out of judgment and replacing it with empathy is a critical skill for all leaders today. By now, you know my mantra: set the table, invite cool people, magic happens. Julie is one of the coolest. Enjoy the conversation. So, Julie Kennedy Oehlert, it is such a treat always to talk with you, and I'm so looking forward to this.
Well, and thank you for having me. I would love to just sit and talk to you all day, as we have. But I have But I have to say that, especially during the pandemic, you're reaching out so that we could talk, and I could talk about the things that were happening as a healthcare leader during the pandemic. I am forever grateful. That was a gesture of amazing mentorship on your part.
We can never reach out and connect with somebody else without getting tremendous benefit back ourselves. And so I've been incredibly privileged and to have friends like you that I learn so much from. I get so much energy and so much vision from. It's fantastic. So yay us.
It is how we learn. We learn from each other.
So we learn. That's how we learn, for sure. So Julie, the reason that I really love talking with you is that you are a really astute observer of people in organizations, and you have a particularly experienced and knowledgeable view of leadership. And of course, that's my jam. I love anytime we can explore and exchange ideas on that. So what are you noticing in your workforce today?
Two things. The workforce is stressed and fearful. The only way that healthcare is going to get the kind of results that our patients and our communities deserve is through taking care of our workforce. And so the workforce is stressed. They're stressed in their home lives, and they bring that stress to work. They work in a large environment that is often polarized, because healthcare issues are polarizing right now. And I don't think we don't need to talk anymore about that. And so we see this level of stress and fear and lack of psychological safety that really hurts most of or all of our outcomes. But what's really different for me coming out of the pandemic is the amount of stress and burnout that executives have. Moral distress for our team members is nothing new. And the pandemic was, acute recognition of a chronic problem to quote Dr. Mike Walder, my CEO. But executives, I see, the same amount of lack of psychological safety, burnout, tired, fearful. And that permeates down into the organization. And if your workforce is already feeling that, it kind of leads to almost a paralysis of innovation and a paralysis of how do we move forward.
Julie, some cynics could say, wait a minute, the people at the top of the house are the ones that are setting the rules. What do you mean no psychological safety? What do you mean they don't feel safe? How does that square?
Yeah, it's interesting to think about, isn't it? So, right now in healthcare, according to what I see, is that you have people that have the vision to want to innovate, to want to try new things. And then you have people who are like, we have to keep the lights on. And
Yeah.
so at the executive table, there's a lot of positioning and who's going to be the one that speaks out and says, we can't do this anymore. We have to try something new. It's going to be scary. It's probably risky. There's no solid return on investment for it, but there is innovation possibilities.
Yeah.
And so that leads to a really interesting dynamic. And of course, I sit in the more innovation seat, right? I'm a disruptor.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I always say to people, if somebody's going to disrupt, especially in this environment, it may as well be you. You may as well say it, but there is risk in that. So I think that the psychological safety issues, especially around change, is very, very dicey right now, from the executives and the board all the way down to the team members.
Because people at the executive level and board see some taking risks in some case, maybe existentially, like if we screw this up, we could cease to exist or we could be severely
Yeah.
hampered in our ability to serve our patients.
Yep. Exactly.
So, Julie, what are the best leaders doing to take care of themselves and take care of their workforce and allow some modicum of safety so that we can try a few new approaches every once in a while?
I would give my perspective, which is that you need to be with your people and you need to listen. We are not in this alone. I have in my healthcare organization 15,000 innovators that work all throughout my organization. That's my entire organization. And if I listen to them and I try to understand what they're trying to tell me, I'm more connected to them. I get re-energized and I don't feel like I'm alone in making these really hard decisions. So I think right now, great leaders are with their people, they're listening, they are considering. And the other thing I think that leaders are doing right now to keep themselves at their very best is that they're taking good care of themselves. I have seen more leaders now that are more thoughtful about their own well-being and wellness than ever before. It used to
Wow.
be kind of that badge of courage, right? I'll
Yeah.
just work myself to death and leave like a bleeding, leave the blood behind as I
Sleep
leave
under my
work.
desk. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And the more emails I send at 1:30, the more powerful people think I am. But I think that has really gone away as people have really realized that they can't lead in this really challenging time unless they're taking care of them.
It seems to be like a bottom up change. Like our workforce is saying, I need better sense of my life. I'm not going to grind it out and sleep under my desk. I'm going to give you everything I've got while I'm there. Make it okay for me to do that. And we've learned. Some of us have learned from, the expression, and they're not wrong. And they're
Yeah.
not wrong.
And they can teach us. What I think is fascinating is they used to always say, and you've heard this 100 times, people don't leave their job, they leave their manager.
Right.
Well, right now, people don't leave their job nor their manager, they leave their senior team. We have seen that engagement is much more connected to the executive brand and presence than it is to the manager these days. And I actually think that's challenging and I think it's refreshing because the executives can set the purpose.
Yep.
They can set the tone, they can live the values. It's good for us, it's good for our team to see, and it is a better cultural ideal for the leaders to know that it's me, right? It's
Wow.
me that's setting this tone. So I've seen that. And the other thing that I would say is fascinating that I've seen is that people don't just do work and home. They're all of our new team members are like, I want home and work to be kind of mixed in together.
Give me
It's
an
kind of
example of
interesting.
that. What does that look like?
When I'm at home, I want to be home, but I also might want to work from home, and I might want to work part days and go to work and do things I like. And I might want to have a workplace that is soothing to me. I want a tranquility room at work. I like my workout space at home.
Interesting.
I want you to at work to give me healthy food. I don't want to eat crappy food at work. I don't eat crappy food at home. So it's really become very interesting, the new workforce, and I think it's good for us. So I will say that I think it's good for us that we are challenged to
Yeah.
provide a better workforce that's more like what people would want at home.
It seems like this push for greater humanity causes leaders to kind of rethink how they approach their task. You gave an example a minute ago where the best leaders are the ones that are in touch with, that are connected with, that are listening to, as opposed to top down and
Yeah.
power over. It is really power with. What are some of the implications of a partnering kind of paradigm, a power with paradigm that traditional leadership hasn't figured out yet?
Well, I think that's where innovation and disruption is going to live. A lot of executives in healthcare have done leadership in healthcare a long time, and
Hmm.
they struggle to see it in a new way. Get yourself a millennial or a Gen Z advisor. They're very quick to tell you how you can ramp up your recruitment, your retention, your technology for better patient experiences. So those gaps in all the different generations that are in healthcare, um, we are better served by listening to them and letting them be the innovators and freeing them up so that they can help
Yeah.
us be disruptive.
A couple of points. One, in a dynamically changing industry, if you don't have a reverse mentor relationship with somebody, A, shame on you, and B, go get one.
Yep,
Stop making excuses and stop complaining about what different generations don't have that looks familiar to
I
you.
agree.
Start learning from them.
They want to be stakeholders. They don't really want to be employees. They want to be stakeholders. And if they're engaged and want to be stakeholders, we should invite them in.
Yeah.
We should invite them in.
Yeah. So what's it look like to invite somebody in? How do you develop that kind of partnering relationship with somebody who admittedly may be new to the workforce? This might be their first job. Should we think about that? How do we develop that sense of partnering with all members of our workforce?
So the first thing that is we have to embrace social media. I love social media. It is the most rawest form of feedback you'll ever get. It's unfiltered. It's not a structured survey. I love it. And so we encourage when our new employees, their first day, we put them on our social media platforms. We say, get on our Facebook pages, get on our LinkedIn, get on our news channel, and talk to us. And so then I have
Wow.
people that monitor that. So I think social media is a venue. I also am a big fan of crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
We just redid our values. Coming out of the pandemic, we wanted to see what behaviors best exemplified our values. Well, I can't tell people that, but I asked our team members, and over 6,000 of our team members voted 73,000 times on what behaviors they wanted to see in their environment every day. And so now I have these behaviors that half my entire workforce said, I believe in these. That's magical. And then the other thing I think is intentional work on psychological safety. Psychological safety is the antithesis of structured hierarchy, right? Because people have to be able to feel safe to say things up the food chain,
Yeah.
down, and it also helps a lot with workplace violence issues. And so having a program where people are actively trained in psychological safety, they know what it is, they believe in it, they know what behaviors foster it. And again, psychological safety is very power with. I think those are the things that you can do to start listening. The other thing I would say is that you have to listen multidimensionally. And so how many ways can you listen? Let me count the ways. You
Hmm.
have to be able to listen on social media. You have to be able to listen through email. You have to have a crowdsourcing. You probably have to have an interactive platform. You probably also do focus groups. You also talk to your people in orientation. So you have breakfast in person, online, asynchronous. You have to do it all because all those different generations want to tell you things in different ways.
Almost every executive that I've interviewed have talked about the need for listening. If I had done this 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that would not have been kind of the thing. But it's pointing me to this term of kind of the new covenant. between workers and their organizations. The new covenant says the organization promises that I'm going to create a psychologically safe space for you. The new covenant says I'm going to honor and respect you as a whole human being with needs inside and outside these walls. When you think about this notion of the changing relationship, I call it covenant, between or agreements between the workplace and the workforce, anything else come to mind? What does it take to create this new relationship?
So I mean, what you just said speaks to me. I believe it's our way forward. That space is where innovation and disruption is going to live. But I also think there's a place in this conversation for love. And when I talk about love, I talk about the way that Dr. Martin Luther King talked about love, the love of humanity. And I think that our team members want the structure and they want those things, but they want us to truly love and care about them. Not in a paternalistic way, but in a human way.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that is like, that's not a skill. When you said we weren't talking about listening, I mean, imagine when you say the skill I bring to the boardroom is love, and everybody
Love.
goes, no.
Yeah.
Well, that is not a skill. That is a weakness. But what's love got to do with it, right? But I do think that people are looking for more of a human connection at work and a purpose that we are not wired to give them yet. And so I love the idea of a covenant because it means you give to me, I give to you, but it is a relationship.
Yeah.
It's a relationship.
Oh boy, I've got so many questions, and
I know.
I love your focus on the way forward. It's so easy to get caught up in pieces of a dysfunctional system, which most people would say characterizes healthcare pretty well, and lose sight of kind of clear ways forward. I think this new covenant could be one of them. It's like, let's think about each other differently. Let's think about the space that we create. Let's think about the love and regard we have for one another. If that is the foundation that characterizes our relationship, it's going to be a very different kind of relationship. How in that, kind of, and beds still need to be made, and patients still need to be cared for, and medications still need to be delivered. And how do we think about, or how should we think about creating this environment, and also at the same time we've got this high performance needs of the organization. We still got to care for patients. We still want to reduce inpatient bedtime, and length of stays, and we want to improve clinical outcomes. How do we do that if we are having this new covenant with our team?
The good news is it's not mutually exclusive because when you love and care for people and they have capacity, they will love and care for their patients and each other. And so the more that and I think this is a little struggle that we're having, but how well you take care of your team is how well they're going to take care of patients. Now, beds have to be made, and if I love my patient and you've loved me, I'm going to make sure that bed is perfect and on time, and that patient has a nice dry place and the patient is warm, and I'm going to take care of quality because quality is love, right? Keeping someone safe
Yeah.
is a manifestation of a love in a relationship. And so I think that they are actually the path versus something that's mutually exclusive. But can our brains wrap around that so that we know that investing in our team members is really investing in all of our other outcomes? And by the way, there is data to support that is the case. So that purpose and love, and I think we also have to add purpose in there.
Yes.
Because when people are ignited by their purpose, I don't need to watch them over their shoulder or hold them accountable because they are accountable themselves, because they wouldn't do it any other way, because they love their patients, their profession, each other.
I'm a new supervisor, come from with a clinical background. How do you help me understand navigating this balance between love and regard and safe space and that performance? Because there are at times there are tensions between the two. If I'm really caring for patients, it may cause me to work longer, harder. But how do you help me learn to navigate that balance between the environment, my workforce, the needs of the organization, the needs of the patient, all of that.
I think it comes back to what we started talking about. It comes back to leadership development.
Hmm.
It comes back to developing purpose-driven leaders who can prioritize and jealously guard their hearts and the minds of their people so that they don't have them do things that aren't connected to purpose. Everything we want our clinical team to do is connected to purpose and values. We just don't often take the time to make that connection clear. And that's where we get burnout.
Leaders go first. Leaders develop themselves. We can't be quiet and present or we can't expect others to be if we aren't. We can't be generative. We can't be respectful. Or that's what we've got to lead and demonstrate.
So there is enough scholarly work that shows us the impact of great, loving leadership on hard outcomes. So it's all there. We might not want to see it, but they'll know it when they've turned over their entire staff, which costs so much money, recruitment and retention, and they've turned over their executives, and nobody wants to work in a place that's not purpose-driven and connected to purpose because healthcare is really hard. So we don't have to tell them. They're just going to figure it out.
You are a deeply caring human being. What are the values that have you show up that way?
It's an interesting question, and I think everyone should ask that because it will help them slot into what work they should be doing. I really have a true love of humanity, all humans. I have actually all life. I mean, as you know, I also love the pollinators, and I also love the butterflies, and I love everything, so I have a true love of humanity, and that love of humanity draws me to a place that needs humanity and that is bereft sometimes of that humanity, which is healthcare. So, so I think it was the right place for me to go. I think sometimes as an executive who loves humanity, that sometimes that has a different perception for people. But again, that's for me to grow through. But yeah, so I really value humanity, and just FYI as a reminder is I was an emergency trauma nurse before this. And you know what they say about the emergency room, it's where you love the unlovable. And so I spent most of my career in emergency medicine, where the day-to-day, what you see in the emergency room day-to-day can just about break your heart unless you truly love and want that to be better for someone.
It's amazing. Julie, you have a very, very busy life. It's always been that way. Pandemic was nuts, off the hook nuts, but yeah. What are the life hacks that you've adopted?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I want to ask you that back. I want to ask everyone that question. So I think one of the life hacks is to guard your empathy just like you would guard your physical health. Be mindful of guarding your soul and your empathy and treating it like the most important thing. Because in my work, it is the most important thing. So that is one life hack that I'm really thoughtful about. The other life hack that I think is interesting is that it doesn't have to be a special day to do special things. So as you know, I'm an experienced designer and I love experiences. So my life hack is I can come home on a Wednesday and decide that I'm going to have a birthday party-esque dinner, something fabulous, just an experiential thing to lift my sense of value, to make it feel special, to make life feel special. So that's another life hack that I use on myself quite a bit. Is that's just awesome. It's like today is somebody's birthday. Let's make it sparkle.
What was the line from Alice in Wonderland? It's your unbirthday.
Yeah.
You've got one birthday. You've got 364 unbirthdays. Let's celebrate your unbirthday.
Yeah. Let's make somebody feel special today because, my goodness, everyone is truly special.
It's never inappropriate. It's never unwelcomed, I don't think, to bring energy into somebody's life. And I think about this a lot because of my station in life. Are you remembered and are you known as the energy giver, the person that brings life and vitality and possibility into a room or not? Because we have that opportunity every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to make a memory for someone,
Make a memory.
or
Absolutely.
to, yeah, or to empathize with someone who people have judged. I mean, one of the ways that I try to stay really connected to my value of loving humanity is to really stay out of judgment and have gratitude.
Oh boy.
Stay out of judgment and have gratitude.
How do I honor you? I stay out of judgment. I listen to you openly and deeply. And I hear you and really work to understand where my own work, my fear, my biases, my filters are a little cloudy sometimes. It's getting in the way of me really knowing you and seeing you for who you are.
Yep.
Huge. That's huge.
Yeah, and staying out of judgment has the element that when people say to me, "Well, I would have never done that." That
Yeah.
is my signal that I can teach them because they don't even know they're in judgment right now. But they've already made me an other. They've made me an other by saying, I would have never made that choice. And
Right.
then we have an opportunity to say, but you weren't me, but you weren't them. And that people make decisions for all sorts of crazy reasons because we're human.
Yep.
And so instead of saying, I would never do that, think about how could I help them right now?
It just occurred to me one of my life hacks is this commonality. I'm
Mm.
trying to find. I don't play in the poles. In the polarities. I play kind of right down the middle. Like, wait a minute. Let's start with what you and I can agree on, and I can begin conversation. So one of my life hacks is having wonderful conversations, getting to know people by focusing on what makes us great, what makes us and what we agree on. So let's start there. I'm realizing, and this is based on my own work and my own where I get tripped up. For me, a life hack is to continue to understand and explore my fears and stay out of that, stay out of fear-based, fear-driven behavior, and focus instead on what I'm really committed to. I'm really committed to people being great. I'm really committed to the wonderful relatedness between people, all that kind of stuff. But sometimes my fear gets in the way, and it again clouds the lens, and I'm behaving impatiently. I'm behaving brusquely. I'm behaving dismissively. I'm behaving judgmentally, all those kinds of things. And so, I have my daily habits and rituals to try and continue to peel away those layers of fear that just are insidious and they hide in different spots and different times.
I think that helps your physical well-being too, because the flight or fight, our fear responses, which are deeply in our DNA as humans. Then you have increased blood pressure, you have increased heart rate, you don't feel as well. So I like that hack because I think that fear. I've been thinking about this a lot with what's been going on and what goes on with healthcare. Is that fear is is at the root of a lot of things that are going on, that if we could somehow tone it down a little, that we could even think more humanely, reasonably,
Yeah.
if we could just tone down that kind of that wild fear monster that we have. So I think that's the life. Those are the two hacks of our time right now. We need those.
The term that was given to me by a friend was negative capacity. We need to develop this negative capacity where this looks attractive and this looks attractive, or this looks good and this looks bad, but we can stay in that tension, that discomfort. I'm not really good at that. I'm really not good at staying in discomfort. I want to ease the pain as quickly as I can. I want to I wanted to ease the discomfort. So I work to solve it.
Yeah, and from a leadership standpoint, I think that's really important because if you're leading a group that's polarized, you have to stay in all of those spaces, or
Yeah.
you actually create worse issues in your own organization. Now,
Mm.
you can have values that are part of the organization,
Yep.
but a lot of people can live within those values and still be polarized. And then how do we deal with that? I'm very interested in what's going to happen as we go forward, even within healthcare, because a lot of the healthcare issues are so polarizing, because
Yep.
we're going to have literally team members that don't agree. They don't philosophically agree with what the healthcare issue is, and
Right.
that could be really challenging for us. And
It
you
would
have
be.
to learn to lead through that. I mean, like, you got to learn to lead it. You got to learn to lead through that because it's real. You can't say I don't have to lead like that because that's not real. It's not.
Well, all the things that you and I have talked about for now months and years,
Hmm.
this notion of deep regard, this notion of humanity, this notion of really truly deeply listening, the notion of making sure that you're getting your cup filled, all of that coming from purpose, aligning to values. That stuff's not terribly new. This is from a previous conversation I had with you, but it's certainly more, kind of acute these days. It's
Yeah.
not new that we tell leaders to listen to their people. That's not new. But why and how and what layers they're going to have to listen through, that's fairly new. There are a couple of new things where people are demanding more care for their mental health from their organizations than they ever have before. There's more noise and busyness from social media than ever before. There's all that kind of stuff. But a lot of the issues are just not new.
They're not new, but that doesn't mean that they're being executed, because
No,
there are people that wasn't part of their leadership toolkit,
no.
because it didn't have to be. And so those leaders are the leaders that will have to learn new strategies as we move it, especially in healthcare, as we move into the next phase, because people won't work in healthcare if our environments are so toxic to them.
Right.
They just won't work in healthcare anymore. We just won't have anyone to care for us
I
when we
will
need them.
say it's probably not been in the life toolkits of a lot of people. We talk
Mm,
about this as leadership, but like not everybody's been trained on care for self, on nurturing one's soul, on snapping to a grid called purpose, to be clear on and out loud about what you believe and why you believe it, and then living in integrity. But like,
yeah,
who teaches that? We're teaching a
yeah,
very, like, we're just all trying to get by. At the end of the day, I think it's an Aristotle quote, but it basically says, don't never judge another man or woman, never judge another person, because they're just really struggling to do the best they can to get by.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
happen to live by that. It's
yeah,
very true.
absolutely.
Hey, Julie,
What?
what are you trying to promote? What can we pitch for you?
I wrote this book. It's a textbook. It's called System Innovations, A Holistic Approach to Disrupting with Love and Human Caring.
Hmm.
And I really want love and human caring to be the disruptors of healthcare. I
Okay.
don't want healthcare to be disrupted by more business, more financiers. I want healthcare to be disrupted toward love and human caring for the patients and the team members. I see the potential in healthcare. I love healthcare. I've worked in healthcare my whole life,
Yeah.
and it has the potential to be everything that humanity needs it to be. But it's not going to get there in silos. It's not going to get there in its broken, limping state.
Yep. Yep.
So I wrote that book so that people could take a look at the possibilities.
And then can we follow you on any kind of social media? Because, you write.
Yes, you can follow me on LinkedIn. And then I love when people reach out to me on LinkedIn and want to talk or want to interact,
Excellent.
because I do think that how we interact with each other and how we share with each other is the future. You've had great mentors in your life. I've had great mentors in my life. You are one of my mentors, and the mentorship that people have given me has allowed me to do what I do today. So again, we're all in this together.
Well, Julie, I so look forward to every time I get a chance to chat with you. You are truly one of the brightest, most caring, and most innovative leaders, forget healthcare, leaders that I know. I always take away important stuff after every one of our conversations. So for that, I thank you so much. I thank you for our friendship, and really appreciate the time. Can't wait to share these ideas and thoughts with the rest of the world. That was a great conversation with a very special and unique leader, an out-of-the-box thinker that puts care for employees and patients at the center of every consideration as the only way to get superior performance. Julie's caring, creative, and capable. She knows how to get stuff done, but more than that, everything she touches is memorable and golden. Check out Julie's work on LinkedIn and Instagram. You'll gain greatly, as I always have. Set the table, invite cool people, magic happens. Thanks to Julie Kennedy Oehlert for this incredible masterclass. Until next time, leaders, step wise.
Thank you for listening to Stepwise. Stepwise is brought to you by Dr. Foster Mobley. Edited and promoted by Zetist. You can listen to more episodes wherever you stream podcasts. Find out more at fostermobleymt.com or follow us on social media at Foster Mobley. That's FOSTERMOBLEY. We look forward to having an inspiring conversation with you soon.